When I refused to donate corneas to my stepsister, my mom and stepdad decided to drag me before the Southwest called Court of Morality. If found guilty, I'd be thrown into the so-called flames of righteousness, turned to ash, with all my possessions going to them. But at the verdict, they dropped to their knees, crying and pleading for mercy from the judge. When I was led to the platform, I was unshaken. The judge, sitting high and mighty, had a stern look plastered across his face. Above his head, the large screen scrolled with live comments, each mocking me relentlessly. Isn't this the girl who injured her sister Sayez and refused to donate even one cornea? Utterly heartless, acting all cool after such a foul deed. Laughable. Saw another one like her, cocky till they tossed her into the flames, pissed herself. The Court of Morality was a workaround for legal loopholes, judging only those whose sins didn't breach actual laws but were deemed despicable. It was a live broadcast, where 100 anonymous people cast their votes on your fate. If deemed guilty, into the flames of righteousness you go, to burn and then vanish into ashes, with all your belongings handed over to the accuser. On the opposite side, my mother, tightly holding my stepsister with no blood relation between them, looked at me with scorn. My stepfather ogled me greedily. The judge banged his gavel, asking once more for confirmation. Plaintiffs, are you certain you want Lexi to undergo this moral judgment? If she's found guilty, she'll face. He was cut off mid-sentence by my mother, who yelled with all her might, yes. I want this backstabbing brat to suffer. The judge shook his head, turning to me with a questioning look. Defendant, are you sure about using the memory extractor? The crowd gasped in shock, and even the faces of the three plaintiffs turned pale. The memory extractor could pull out the most genuine memories. Unlike the selective ones offered voluntarily, it would present the complete and unchangeable truth. Yet, it was a painful process with serious potential side effects due to imperfect technology. 2 thick tubes would be inserted deep into the brain to extract memories, and there was a significant risk of ending up brain dead afterward. In other words, I could become a vegetable once the procedure was over. Facing my mother's distraught expression, I nodded firmly and calmly. Yes, I am. Trial kicked off. Screens encircled the platform while several technicians came forward to sanitize me for the procedure. As the thick tubes were inserted into my brain, I managed a nod to the judge through the intense pain. He dropped the gavel and began, Charge 1, disrespecting your stepfather, showing no gratitude, shamelessly exploiting men for money, bringing disgrace to your family. Instantly, the screens flashed to life, displaying memories submitted by the plaintiffs. There was 15-year-old me, rushing at my stepfather with a furious swing. Just home from his labor job, he was unprepared for my punch that sent blood dripping from his jaw. Cut to another memory. Me at 15, my face full of disdain as I knocked a $50 bill from my mom's hand, yelling, really? This is pocket change. Are you kidding me? Then, me in a chic dress and bright lipstick, hanging onto a shy, handsome boy, cooing, hey, Johnny, did you get your allowance? Hand over 500, will you? The comments went wild. What a schemer. Flirting right in the open, huh? No shame, hitting her stepdad who's breaking his back to educate her. Ingrate. Knows damn well the family's scrape and still complains about money. Disgusting. She deserves to be found guilty. My stepfather smirked triumphantly. My mom clutched at her heart in agony while my stepsister dabbed at her tears in secret. As the jury furiously tapped on their screens, my memories played out for them. A minute later, the live vote appeared on the big screen. Not guilty. The comments section erupted. What a joke. How's that not guilty? Did the jury lose their minds? Amidst a barrage of insults, the judge looked at me resignedly. Defendant, would you like to share your memories on the big screen? Confronted with relentless demands from the commenters, I took a deep breath. I'm willing. There I was at 15, holding my mom's hand, walking into my stepdad's house. Nervously, he sat on the couch, scowling as he sized me up, while my stepsister devoured a cream cake beside him. I couldn't help but eye the cake hungrily, swallowing hard. My mom caught this and slapped me so hard that I tumbled to the floor. Embarrassing creature. Get down and show some respect. Look at you, drooling over cake like you deserve it. I stood my ground, refusing to kneel. My mom forced my head down, banging it repeatedly against the cold floor until my face was smeared with blood. Only then did my stepfather crack a satisfied grin. That night, I was allowed to sleep in the living room. In the dead of night, my bandaged wounds throbbed painfully from infection. Curled on the floor, I whimpered quietly. My stepsister, on her way to the bathroom, heard me and yelled, "Get out of here." My mom and stepdad were also awakened by the noise. They all looked on coldly as I tried to explain, but my mom interrupted me. With an icy tone I'd never heard before, she suggested, maybe you should sleep in the hallway. Terrified, I curled up in the dark hallway, shaking uncontrollably. I whispered to myself, hold on, Lexi. Just a little longer till dawn. But I almost didn't see the next sunrise. I was freezing, curled into a ball, my head throbbing without reason. In a blurry vision, I saw my deceased father smiling and reaching out to me, beckoning me to join him. Instinctively, I reached out, but just as I was about to touch him, I realized he had been gone for years. I started sobbing loudly. I don't want to die. I want to live. I still have school to attend. The next morning, as my mom was taking my stepsister to school, she discovered me lying in the hallway, convulsing, unconscious. She knelt down and slapped me twice across the face. "Lexi, you really play the part well, don't you? Get up, stop playing dead." When I remained unresponsive and started foaming at the mouth, she finally panicked. A neighbor on his way to work saw my condition and hurriedly carried me to the hospital. The doctor diagnosed me with a high fever from an infected wound and urged immediate hospitalization to avoid death. Yet, hearing the upfront cost, my mom hesitated. She tried to pull me off the hospital bed, muttering, "This much for treatment. Why don't you just rob us? Lexi, get up. If you're going to die, do it at home." If not for the compassionate doctor who covered my medical expenses and cared for me, I might have died. On the day of my discharge, she gently touched my head and said softly, "Lexi, take care of yourself. Remember, if you ever face any trouble, come find me." Nodded, still too naive to understand that she would be my lifeline. On the way home, I reassured myself quietly, "Just obey, Lexi. If you listen, things will start to look up." But they didn't. I never even got the chance to obey. You might also like sorry. When I got back home, my stepdad and stepsister still gave me the stink eye. Whatever I did, it rubbed them the wrong way, triggering a smackdown for no good reason. That day, my mom made roast pork. Seeing no one around, I couldn't resist. I snuck a piece. I hadn't tasted meat in ages. Of course, my stepsister walked in just then. With a nasty sneer, she tattled to my mom, "Auntie, look at the little thief you brought home, stealing meat." Tears started rolling down my cheeks. Even the family dog gets meat, so why am I a thief for taking a bite? My mom slapped me without even asking, knocking me off balance, and my head cracked against the table's edge. Just home from work, my stepdad saw me clutching my head and jeered. "What now? Faking an injury to squeeze some cash out of us? If you're that hard up for money, why not make it worth your while and spend the night with me?" Blinded by anger, I charged him and landed a punch that left him spitting blood. That night, my mom tore my clothes off and pulled my hair like she'd lost her mind, crying and cursing. "You're so shameless, always flirting with every man. You should be glad he even looked your way. How dare you strike him, you ingrate. Love flirting so much? Go strut outside naked and show everyone." My stepsister clapped along, thrilled. "Yes. Let everyone see just how shameless she is." Despite my pleas, my mom and stepsister were unmoved. I ended up outside, clad only in my underwear. That night, I sat by the door, arms crossed over my chest, face buried in my knees, and drifted off to sleep. Around midnight, a drunk passed by and, spotting me vulnerable, started to make his move. I woke up terrified, struggling, but he was too strong and pinned me down, about to force himself on me. I screamed at the top of my lungs, which woke the neighbors, one of whom came out to check. A neighbor called the police, who arrived with a social worker. They gave my mom and stepdad a stern lecture and warned them never to let me sleep outside again. I hoped life would get better, but it didn't. My mom dragged me back inside, pulled out a $50 bill, and handed it to me with an apologetic look. "Lexi, you've embarrassed us too much. If you stay, it'll tarnish your sister's reputation. I have no choice. She's more important to me. This is all I can spare. You're on your own now." I slapped the money away, yelling, "Really? This is pocket change. Are you kidding me? I don't need your money, and I'm done with you for good." G6. I left home with nowhere to turn. With no options left, I ended up sleeping under a bridge. I used the last of my allowance to buy a knife for protection against the other vagrants there. Fortunately, nothing happened. Before he died, my dad had left me a little money. It wasn't much, but it was enough to scrape by if I was careful. Still, I couldn't just live off that forever. What would I do when it ran out? Every day after school, I hit up restaurants looking for a job, but no one would hire me because of my age. I was desperate. One day, I treated myself to a burger in the cafeteria, eating it tearfully. After I finished, I was about to ask the school office to drop out when someone blocked my way. It was the school underachiever, smiling as he looked me over. "Hey, Lexi, how about tutoring me? Don't worry, it's not for free. I can give you a month." Desperate for any lifeline, I agreed instantly. After school, I'd stay back to go over lessons with him. Over time, feelings started to develop between us, though neither of us said anything. After one session, he shyly handed me a dress and lipstick as birthday gifts. He invited me out to celebrate and I accepted. I wore the dress and lipstick he gave me and we linked arms. It was payday for him. Johnny, you got your allowance today, right? How about 500? You already spent quite a bit on these gifts. I'll cut the tutoring fee this month. Unbeknownst to us, my stepsister was watching us from a distance, jealousy written all over her face, clutching a love letter filled with hearts. When the memory ended, the chat went silent for a moment. Several jurors looked skeptically at the plaintiff's table. My stepdad and mom were pale, my stepsister quietly sobbing. But no one felt sorry for them, and soon the comments section was buzzing again. Damn, outright villainous. Even for family to say such things. He got what he deserved, right? And her mom, only offering $50 to her own daughter to fend for herself. Not everyone deserves to be a parent. And that sister, always adding fuel to the fire, then spreading rumors out of jealousy, just vile. I stood there, expression neutral. These events were just the tip of the iceberg of my tragic life. I had long lost any hope in my family. Some in the comments remained cautious. Hold on, there might be a twist coming. Yeah, seen it before, big turnaround, and the accuser ends up ruined. The screen flickered and the next charge against me rolled out, accused of drugging her sister before exams, causing her sister to miss them. Fled an arranged marriage, taking $500,000 in dowry money, burdening the family with debt. From the corner of my eye, I saw my stepdad's smirk return. Lexi, you can't talk your way out of stealing that money, he jeered. My mom was livid, full of feigned indignation. They hadn't noticed my stepsister trembling, rightfully fearful as one of us. Who knew the truth? I remained silent, not rushing to defend myself. Let the truth play out in its own time. The memory came back to life. I was on video, offering a glass of milk to my sister with a cheerful smile. She drank it without hesitation. The big exam was tomorrow. The next morning, no amount of shaking could wake her. My stepdad and mom were frantic. As for me, I left with a mischievous smirk, heading to the exam I'd prepared for, while she slept off the drug at home. When her college rejection letter arrived, I couldn't resist gloating a bit. So clueless. All that studying wasted. Even if you hadn't taken that glass of milk, you wouldn't have made it to college on your grades alone. Better me than you, right? While I was taking notes in a college lecture, she was in a factory, sweating over machinery. The audience booed, but I kept my focus, never looking away from the screen. The scene continued. I was packing to leave when my mom grabbed me, begging with a look of despair. Lexi, running away from a wedding like this. What about us? What will people think? Even if you have to go, at least return the dowry. $500,000 isn't a small amount. How can your dad ever repay that? I pushed her off, coldly replying, not my problem. Let him figure it out. Or you could, along with my sister. She's working, right? Just a bit more effort and it's paid. Dollar. I turned and walked away, leaving her crying on the floor. The comments went wild again. Really? She drugged her sister out of the exams, left her to toil in a factory, and expects her family to clear her debts. Gross. I actually felt sorry for her a minute ago. There I stood, calm and collected, simply waiting. Soon, the second round of votes was and still not guilty. With my permission, my own memories began to unfold on the screen. There was me and Johnny, heads down in the teacher's office. Opposite us, my sister was angrily pointing at us, while our parents looked on. Mr. Todd, I saw them dating. Lexi even asked Johnny for money. Before I could defend myself, I felt a sharp slap. Lexi, shame on you. Where are your manners? Engaging in such disgraceful behavior. Don't call me mom anymore. My cheeks burning, I stammered, what did I do? It's all lies because she's jealous. I'm innocent. My mom went to hit me again, but Johnny's dad intervened. Mrs. Beard, I heard from Johnny that you kicked Lexi out, right? My son felt sorry for her, so he asked her to tutor him. He promised to pay, and he did. If you can't afford kids, maybe don't have them. And you, young lady, liking my son is fine, but spreading lies when he's not interested. That's low. My mom's face turned as red as a beet, wishing she could just vanish. Even after Johnny's dad left with him, she said not a word. But at least, after all the gossip, my mom cold stand it and brought me back home. I thought maybe I could finally live normally, but I was in for another harsh lesson back home. I walked on eggshells. I kept my voice down at home, trying everything to reduce my presence. You never knew when the smallest thing might trigger a violent outburst. As the college entrance exams approached, I kept telling myself that once I got into college, away from here, everything would get better. But the night before the exams, as I sneaked out to use the bathroom, I overheard my mom conspiring with my stepdad in the kitchen. I'll give Lexi this milk tonight. She won't wake up tomorrow, and we won't have to pay for college. Right, we can't afford 2 college tuitions. Only my daughter deserves that. Lexi can just get married off for some quick dowry money. I was stunned, rooted to the spot. Just then, my sister screamed about a cockroach in her room. I darted into the bathroom to hide. My mom and stepdad hurried to check on her, and I seized the moment to switch the milk glasses in the kitchen. Then I took the spiked glass back to my room. Not long after, my mom came into my room with the milk. I drank it down as she watched, hopeful. When she left, I took the spiked milk from my desk and, hands trembling, gave it to my sister. She missed her exams, and when I got home after mine, I endured the worst beating of my life. My mom hit and kicked me, screaming, "You wretched girl! How dare you drug your sister? What right do you have to go to college? Why you bore it quietly?" She seemed to forget that I was her own flesh and blood. After their rage subsided, I lay on the ground, spitting blood, feeling like every bone in my body was broken. But I didn't care. As long as I could get to college, they could beat me to death. Thankfully, my scores were high, and I got into the city's most prestigious medical school. Just when I was celebrating, my mom suggested that my sister take my place in college. I flatly refused. "No way. They'll catch on. She'll get kicked out, we'll lose the money, and we'll be the town joke." My stepdad didn't believe me. He was convinced his daughter could match my scores. Desperate, I proposed that we both take ATIS to see who would go. Unsurprisingly, I blew her out of the water. Grudgingly, my stepdad handed back my acceptance letter, clearly unhappy. I waved it proudly, letting my sister see just how wrong they were. I left home and settled into my college dorm. Surprisingly, the doctor who had once saved me was now my professor. Her name was Harper, and she was incredibly kind and always patient with me. Strapped for cash, I scraped by with part-time jobs. To stretch my budget, I ate nothing but bread rolls for every meal. When Iris found out, she started bringing an abundance of food every day, pretending she needed help finishing her leftovers after class. Truthfully, she brought the food just for me. I couldn't thank her enough and threw myself into my studies even harder. She told me I was cut out to be one of the best doctors she'd ever met. In my junior year, my mom called, claiming she was seriously ill and wanted me to visit. Dragging my suitcase home, I walked in to find an old man in his 60s on the sofa. My mom excitedly pulled me beside him and introduced him. "This is Mr. Wilson, an old work buddy of your dad's. We called you back because we've arranged a great match for you. Mr. Wilson's son is about your age. He's a bit slow, but you won't need to work, just look after him. And you need to start working on giving them a grandson soon. Mr. Wilson has offered a generous dowry of $500,000. Realizing I'd been duped, I turned cold, grabbed my suitcase, and stood up to leave. Before I could reach the door, my mom grabbed me, pleading with me not to flee the marriage. Blinded by anger, I pushed her to the ground. She begged from her knees for me to return the dowry money. Infuriated, I told them to figure out their own repayment since I hadn't seen a dime of that money. I later discovered my sister had pocketed the dowry. I chose not to expose her. After all, their debt repayment was none of my concern. The chat went quiet, but a juror couldn't keep their disgust to themselves. "Christ, your family's like a bunch of leeches. Trying to pawn off a college kid to some dimwit, that's just sick." My mom, embarrassed, tried to retaliate, opening and closing her mouth, but she was at a loss for words. My sister's complexion turned pale. She whispered hurriedly to my mom, who then managed to calm down. With no objections from the plaintiffs, the judge banged the gavel again. The trial resumed with the third charge: deliberate harm, stabbing her sister in the eye, causing permanent blindness, and evading legal consequences by claiming self-defense. The chat exploded in shock. "That's a bit much, isn't it? Their treatment is horrible, sure, but blinding someone, that's a whole other level of wrong." I felt my face drain of color, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't clear my name from this accusation. I gathered a gang and cornered my sister in a deserted alley behind the factory. Terrified, she clutched her purse and backed away slowly. "Lexi, I'm your sister, what are you planning?" I said nothing, just signaled for the gang to grab her. Approached and kicked her sharply in the stomach. She crumpled to the ground, clutching her belly. "Lexi, Dad supported you all these years, you can't do this to me." I ignored her, kicking her again, this time in the face. She fell back, and I stepped on her head, grinding my heel in. She screamed in agony, reaching into her bag, pulling out a sharp knife and stabbing it into my leg. The blade sunk in, and I gasped from the pain. Ruthlessly, I pulled the knife out, smirked coldly, and drove it into her eye. I stepped back, clutching my arm, watching her roll on the ground, howling in pain. In court, the thugs I'd paid all vouched for my self-defense. In the end, I was acquitted on those grounds. That memory was accurate but incomplete. Soon, the complete version of my memory was displayed on the screen. I watched myself at graduation, nestled in Iris's arms, smiling brightly, then painfully closed my eyes. That memory was too brutal to relive. Again, under Iris's guidance, I graduated successfully. She advocated for me to join her hospital team, and I ended up working in her department. My first day felt like a dream come true. Without her, I doubt I could have endured 5 years of med school, much less become a competent doctor. She was my beacon, leading me out of the darkness. I cherished every day I worked with her. Life might have stayed smooth if I hadn't run into my stepdad at the hospital. After severing ties with my family, I'd kept my workplace a secret. One day, while laughing with Iris on our way to do rounds, I bumped into my mom. She was supporting my stepdad, lugging a huge bag of medicine. Seeing me, her surprise was evident. "Lexi, you're a doctor here now. With what they pay doctors here, and your dad being sick, don't you think you should chip in?" Reluctantly, aiming to avoid a scene, I pulled out all the cash I had and handed it to her. But she scoffed at the amount and made a scene right there in the hospital, accusing me of being ungrateful and stingy. Her relentless nagging froze me, and I instinctively hid behind Iris. She wrapped her arms around me, reassuring me she had my back. She called security to escort my mom and stepdad out, then promised the hospital director she'd prevent such disturbances in the future. Protected by her, I was able to relax and dive back into my work. Although my mom and sister caused a few more scenes at the hospital, Iris always had them stopped at the door. I thought I was safe from their harm, but I underestimated the depths of their malice. Unable to reach me, they directed their venom at Iris. They staked out the hospital day after day until they found their opportunity. One night, an ambulance brought in a critically injured car accident victim. It was a dire emergency, and Iris led the surgery. The patient died from severe complications shortly after the surgery. When my mom and sister heard, they manipulated the patient's family, inciting them to violence. The family stormed the hospital with knives, and Iris was tragically killed during their assault. With her dying breath, she urged me to stay strong and not mourn her loss. But mourning was all I could do. I had never felt maternal love until I met her, the only person who had ever shown me true kindness. Consumed by grief and rage, after her funeral, I used all my savings to hire some toughs and cornered my sister in an alley behind the factory. The false testimony wasn't a result of my payment. After they heard about my ordeal, they volunteered to testify on my behalf in court. Although I was unaware beforehand, the accusation against me was inevitably confirmed. Defendant, do you have anything else to say? I lowered my gaze and shook my head. Stabbing her is not something I regret. Memories flooded back. When I first arrived at my stepdad's house, she glared viciously behind my mom's back. "You're Lexi, right? Better make yourself scarce around here, or I'll make your life hell." Every time my mom and stepdad hit me, she'd stand behind them, sneering. "Aren't you being too soft on her? Look at her, she doesn't even seem sorry." The night before my exams, she whispered to my mama and I, "Why don't you slip some sleeping pills into her milk? That way she'll miss her exam tomorrow." When discussing marrying me off to an imbecile, she added, "An idiot would be perfect for her, he won't complain, and think about it, $500,000 is a fortune for her." Upon learning of the patient's death under Iris's surgery, she told the family, "This kind of doctor just doesn't care, only in it for the money, indifferent to whether patients live or die. Maybe your loved one didn't even need surgery, she probably did it just to make money, killing him in the process." The surge of hatred was overwhelming. If I hadn't restrained myself, that knife would have done more than just blind her. I waited quietly. When the voting results were announced, my heart sank. Not all jurors harbored compassion. Some only cared about whether the act was committed. Thus, 18 people voted to find me guilty. Despite the outcome of the first 2 charges, the rules dictated I would still be found guilty. My stepdad's family exploded with joy, embracing each other in celebration. I couldn't help but smile wryly. It wasn't over just yet. The judge's expression was complex as he slowly brought down the gavel. "I declare the defendant not guilty." The chat was full of question marks, and jurors looked at each other in disbelief. My stepdad, visibly agitated, tried to storm the judge's bench, bellowing, "That's a load of crap. She's obviously guilty, and you, the judge, are just covering for her. I'm filing an appeal." The judge raised his hand, signaling for calm. "Plaintiff, please control your emotions. Now, it's time for the defendant to present her reasons for claiming innocence." As everyone watched in confusion, I stood up, a faint smile playing across my lips. Some might think Lexi is guilty, but that really doesn't matter anymore, because I am not the real Lexi. A shoe flew from the plaintiff's bench, striking me on the forehead. My mom was furious. "What are you blabbering about? We had a DNA test before the trial. You are my daughter, Lexi. A hint of sarcasm flashed in my eyes. Oh, is that so? But wasn't your daughter Lexi killed by you? The room went deathly silent. Everyone at my stepdad's table froze and my mom looked panicked. Impossible. You were revived, weren't you? My stepdad was quick to react, covering her mouth and hissing, "Shut your mouth, you fool." But it was too late, and the implication of her words dawned on everyone. Amidst a chorus of angry voices, I continued, my voice steady. The real Lexi is indeed dead. 2 months ago, the plaintiffs bribed a truck driver to run her over on her way home. By the time she got to the hospital, Lexi was already gone. As for me, I am a clone, created through the combined efforts of Lexi and Dr. Harper, the only one of its kind. Per Lexi's last will, after her death, I assumed her identity to continue her existence. I inherited all of her memories, which include critical research on cloning technology, a technology that could significantly impact humanity. Although it wasn't the original plan, here I am, standing in her place at this trial. As a key figure in significant research, it's impossible for me to be executed. Therefore, I now request a trial for the plaintiffs on charges of premeditated murder. Almost instantly, bailiffs entered the courtroom, escorting the three from the plaintiff's side to the defendant's bench. The trial moved swiftly, and the verdict appeared on the large screen. Guilty. The vote was nearly unanimous. I smiled in satisfaction. Upon seeing the verdict, the three of them shook uncontrollably. My stepdad slapped my mom across the face. You fool. You wanted this trial, now what? I don't want to die. My mom stood there, stunned, muttering to herself, how can this be? How could Lexi be dead? The hospital said she was revived, how could she just be dead? My sister, pale and terrified, knelt on the floor and began to sob. No, I don't want to die. I don't need your eyes anymore, just let me go, please. As she pleaded, she reached up to her intact eye and, in front of everyone, gouged it out. Blood streamed down her face, but she suddenly laughed. That redeems me, right? I don't have to die now, do I? The room erupted in gasps as I slowly shook my head. I'm sorry, but Miss Lexi Beard believed none of you deserve forgiveness. For the last 28 years, every day of her life was filled with fear and agony. She never knew what would upset you next, or what new reason you'd find to hurt her the following day. She lived in constant fear, treading on eggshells, yet you dragged her back into despair time and again. In fact, before her death, she might have had a chance to survive, if only her will to leave had been stronger. But she had given up, longing for death, especially after Dr. Harper's passing, when she lost all hope for this world. Thus, on her behalf, I request the judge to carry out the death penalty immediately. As for the defendant's assets, Miss Lexi Beard chose to donate them to a foundation for children's protection, hoping that other children who suffer, as she did, can find refuge from their abusive families under the foundation's care. The judge paused momentarily, then ordered the execution to be carried out at once. As the flames of righteousness were ignited beside the platform, my stepdad's family collapsed to their knees, weeping and begging the judge for mercy over and over. No one responded to their pleas. As the officers dragged them toward the flames, each of them wet themselves in terror. Just before they were thrown into the fire, the only screen left on the platform played one last memory. Lexi's final moments. Her eyes were half open, her expression calm with a gentle smile. I know not every mother in this world loves their child. But if you choose to bring a child into this world, even just a little bit, make them feel warm, because, to that tiny person, you are their entire world. And if you truly can't offer them a shred of love, then please, don't harm those willing to love them, because it can indeed destroy their entire world.